So with the 128th pick, the Buffalo Bills selected Gabriel Davis, a wide receiver out of UCF. And I think a lot of people are saying, Jackson, why are you making a video about a fourth round pick? Who cares? But I actually think that this is a really interesting pick. I think this is a guy that I have a feeling this video is not going to get too many views because no one really cares. But I think this is a pick that I want to talk about. I think this is someone who I've watched a little bit more of UCF games than other colleges. Admittedly, the way I watch college football is I kind of just watch it for fun. I'm more of a casual college football fan. But then when I make my videos, my breakdowns, I try to watch at least like a full season of a guy's game, what a guy has done. You typically might have noticed that I don't make as many videos as frequently during this time of the year. It's just because I'm watching more college tape, trying to make sure I know enough about these guys to make videos on them. Whereas in the NFL, I'm already watching every snap at least once. So, yeah, again, don't know where I was going with that. Basically, anyways, I watched a lot of this guy's tape just casually because I live in Orlando, and I really like him. I think he's a really good player, and so I wanted to make a video on him and really talk about what I like about him. And I think Buffalo might have really gotten a steal actually here. I think he could be maybe not a steal, but I think he will add some value to the Bills for sure. He can definitely, at the very least, be a role player. And let's just get into what I like about him. We'll start things off with this play. That's where he is on the screen. He's on the bottom of the screen right there. Also, you see that there's something on the left side of the screen. Don't worry about that. That's just the graphic that the ESPN2 put up there. But anyways, what I like about this play is what I want to talk about his cuts, and he's so smooth with his cuts. Despite the fact that he is 6'2" and a big guy, he cuts very well. But it's really not just the cuts, but it's how smart he is with his cuts. So basically what's going to happen right here is that his opposing defender is going to bail right away because Gabriel Davis is a good deep ball receiver. We'll get into that in a second. But what I like about this is right off the bat, what you see is that his assigned man turns very quickly. And look at how he chooses when he's cutting. He chooses when his defensive back is mid-stride to cut. That's when you want to cut. You don't want to cut when your defensive back can easily cut along with you. You want to choose a point where he will be off balance. So the bailing definitely helped, but also the mid-stride also helps because you have to basically finish that stride before you can then start to move over and see if you can then get back into play, which is, that's why a wide receiver can get open easier than a defensive back can, or can move quicker. It's just because you have that knowledge, and if you cut well and cut at the right point, basically right when the stride starts, then you can get as much time as possible to try to get open. And look at how open he gets. I mean, just wide open at that point. That's an easy completion. Doesn't go for like a crazy amount of yards, but an easy completion. And, again, as the old saying goes, you can't go broke making a profit. So really just a smart cut right there. And also it kind of shows the fear that, guys tend to be bailing away from Davis pretty quickly. I also like this play. It's going to be a curl route, and what you're going to see that Pitt defender do is he's going to try to create some contact against Davis, but again, because of Davis's height and, he is a big guy, watch how very quickly pretty much nothing happens to that contact, and I think that defensive back kind of quickly realized. I'm not even sure if that was a full creating contact, or if he was kind of just like, I'm going to touch you a little bit, maybe just, it's more of a maybe later in the game I can then actually try to create some contact and fool you then, just, playing the mind game a little bit. But at this point, he's not bailing. He's trying to stay with Davis, but his body, because of that contact, is facing towards the sideline on the top of the screen. So I guess away from the sideline closest to them. And Davis notices this. So what he's going to do is he's going to then cut closer towards the bottom of the screen, the sideline there. So when he does that, this now forces that Pitt defender to now go in the other direction. He's kind of a little bit off balance. And, he has to try to work a little bit harder too, because he just turned around. He knows where Davis is, but he's also a little bit farther deep than Davis is at this point. And it's just because it's hard to stay totally aligned with somebody when you're moving back and forth and not exactly sure where you have to be. And so the vision is definitely off for that Pitt defender, and just a really quick move by Davis that really worked. And so then when Davis does cut, again, he gets wide open. It was a bad throw. The throw was too high. Davis was open. That could have easily been a completion. Really good route ran by him. He's a smart player, He's not just one of those guys who's tall and all he does is go up and try to get the ball. He's a high IQ player, and I do think that can help. I think that can help Josh Allen make some throws to him, absolutely. One of the things I really like about Davis is his blocking. I mean, this is a guy who he is a good blocking receiver for sure. And I think that's so valuable. I think that it's one of the more underrated things in football is having a receiver who can block. I think, remember when the Rams went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, one of the key ways they did it was by having receivers that would constantly be blocking and blocking well. I mean, they weren't the biggest guys necessarily, but they could block very effectively. And Davis is a guy who can block. Like on this play, it's going to be a screen pass, not too much to break down. Davis just runs out and blocks the defensive back who's closest towards the line of scrimmage. But watch how well he does this. I mean, just a perfect block. He completely finishes that off. It gave him ton of time. I mean, really, that defensive back had nowhere to run. Eventually, the defensive back was able to kind of create something there, but as a whole, I mean, there was about 4 or 5 seconds of a clean block right there, and that's just really what you need. And, the only reason that that defensive back was even partially in the play was just because other players ran around, so there was nowhere else for the other receiver to run. But really just a great block, and he does that all the time. I mean, his blocking, it's fantastic. I won't spend too much time on it, but without a doubt, one of the better blocking receivers coming out of this draft, maybe the best blocking receiver coming out of the draft, honestly. So that's something that I really like about him. I also think that what he does at the line can be very good, and this play is an example of it, where it's going to be a go route, and so, you're at the 25-yard line running a go route. This is just, hey, let's put some points on the board. UCF was down 14 at this point, and also this is a terrible game for UCF fans. Sorry, I know UCF fans watching this video. Apologies for sure, but what's going to happen is that so you see Davis, and what he does at the line is he's going to avoid the contact right away. Notice how very quickly he just takes a step towards the sideline. He's okay with there being no contact. Yes, he's a big guy. Yes, he can get physical, but he is okay with just avoiding contact as a whole. He does not need contact. He's totally fine with there being no contact. And because the reason why he's okay with that is because he does have speed. And watch how he is then able to just outrun that defensive back where there is a ton of separation, and he's able to make the catch. It was initially ruled that he was out of bounds, but he did actually get a foot in. He only got 1 foot in, though, admittedly. So, again, that's what works in college. Doesn't work in the NFL. But, again, I'm mostly showing that play because of how open he got. If that throw is a little bit closer away from the sideline, it's easily a touchdown. But anyways, definitely a very good play from Davis. Really good job, and that's one of the things that he can do. I think that just because he's big doesn't mean that he has to play big. He can play big, very capable of playing big, but also very capable of playing small. He can do what he has to do depending on the route and depending on the situation, and he knows the situation pretty well. Again, smart player, and honestly, in football, having a high IQ player could really make a difference. I mean, watch this play. So this is, he's going to be running a go route on the top of the screen, and you notice that the Stanford defender is playing a solid 7-8 yards off of him. So this is a bad situation, right? If it's obvious that Davis is running a go route here, it is not going to end up too well. The Stanford defender will just stay deep, and with all that, with how far he's playing off the line, it should be a pretty good situation for him. So Davis is going to have to try something here, and that's what he's going to do. Watch how he's going to basically fake as though he's running something else, just whether it's a curl route, looks more of a post route, something like that, cutting over the middle, it seems like, just to get that Stanford defender sort of a little bit out of position and be like, okay, this is where he's getting ready to cut. I have to make sure I don't just stay deep, or, I'll let him be wide open right past the first down marker. And that's another thing I really like about this play is that he's doing this right at the first down marker. He's doing this right at 10 yards past the line of scrimmage, which is then it just, that factors into that Stanford corner of like, okay, well, yeah, a lot of guys do try to get the first down like that, so maybe he is cutting in. So then when Davis does continue running his route, he again gets wide open, and that's just an easy touchdown for him. And that's just, again, it's that high IQ type play that I really like out of a receiver, and I think that he can bring that to the Bills absolutely. And I think that can really, that doesn't just help for him, but that can help for even some of the, even a Stephon Diggs, for example, who's obviously a tremendous talent. When you have one guy who is constantly thinking and constantly making the routes, working on the little things, well, that does rub off on even some of the better guys and some of the veterans too. So obviously it'll help rub off on the younger guys too. It can just help everybody, really. And I do think that he's someone who, at the very least, could be a good guy to have in that wide receiver room. And I think he can be a good talent. I think for for a 4th-round pick, I think this is really good value. I honestly do. For a team that didn't have a 1st-round pick, I thought that this was actually a really good draft for them. I thought that AJ Espenza was really good for their 2nd-round pick. I think Zach Moss is a good running back. I think getting this guy at with a number 4-round pick, I think that's really good value. I think that even Jake Fromm with a 5th-round pick, I think that guy has Case Keenum upside. So makes sense for me. They did get a kicker and another receiver. I believe also it was a defensive back was the other guy they got. So, I think that they, for the most part, and, when we're getting into 6th and 7th rounds, it's like, okay, not exactly sure, not too much there. But as a whole, I think this was a really, really tremendous draft, I think, from them. And listen, this is a team they were the quote-unquote surprise team last year, but I think if you were paying attention, you kind of realized this is a team that could break out and could be good, and now they kind of all put it together last year. This year, they're going to try to continue to be good. We'll see what happens, but I do like this pick. I do think that they needed to work on their offense after last year. I think this, among other things, mainly the Diggs trade, could definitely help them with that. And also just Allen getting a year older should help as well. So I like this pick a lot. I think it's a very underrated draft pick. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.